the thing about groups like Pod Save America, the Obama boys, the fact of the matter is the only reason they're shifting on the issue is because they know it's killing the Democrats when it comes to the general election, and they may not be able to get it back. So the way they see it is we kind of have to ease into this issue now, because if we don't, we're really just handing this over to Trump without a fight. And so by that measure, they see it as a political necessity, whereas either you recognize genocide for what it is or you don't. You don't think about, oh, is this going to work for me politically or not? But I think that that's one of the big problems that we have here. And obviously you heard about Mehdi Hassan leaving MSNBC. But the truth of the matter is that type of stuff happens when you ultimately realize like who the bosses are. You know, you realize that people like Bill Ackman, they really are the ones who run the show, and their money does the talking for them. If they want somebody out in, let's say Harvard, for example, all they have to say is, okay, well, either you're out or money, bye-bye. And that's how it works. And that's how it's worked for many people in those positions for a long time. But I think that that's going to change as well.
I think that's a good sign right now. See, this is the thing. And that's what I wanted to transition to talking about. So let's say we're getting more and more Jews on board. We're getting more and more mainstream media to at least say the word Palestinian. Oh, and I wanted to tell you this when I was a kid. So this is in the 70s. And I remember at one point asking about, well, what's Palestine? I don't know how I heard. I don't even remember her. And it would have been the equivalent of a nun slapping my hand with a ruler kind of response. Palestine isn't a real place. That's not real. And I was kind of reprimanded. So it wasn't that I knew that it was a thing, but I knew that we weren't supposed to say that. Yeah. But now, because of that, I think things are changing. The censorship is off the charts, or at least the intent to censor. And what we're seeing in academia is incredibly scary to me. Yes. And the Jewish people that are in power positions, specifically in our Congress, there's not a single Jew in Congress on the correct side on this, not one. Okay, and that's it's extremely upsetting. But they're using this to be authoritarian. They're using this as an excuse to do this, and so I feel like that's where we kind of almost need to focus right now, is on what's happening with a lot of that censorship.
Yeah. I think that is absolutely true. I had an experience when I first started speaking very publicly in support of Palestine and being very publicly critical of the Zionist project of the state of Israel. Two Zionist academics reached out to my mentors in my grad program and said, your mentee supports terrorism, your mentee delights in Jewish death, and if you don't do something to discipline her, we can reach out to the Board of Regents at her institution and petition to have her removed. There was a threat to try to get my student status revoked as a doctoral student so that I could no longer finish my study. And then I also went to a professional conference several months ago, and it was in Seattle. And one of the days of the conference, there was a pro-Palestine march, literally a 10-minute walk from the conference center. So I went and bought some poster making materials and set up outside of the expo center and said, there's a demonstration for Palestine tomorrow. If you want to make a sign, come with us. You can make your signs here. I brought all the materials, and then we'll leave at this time tomorrow. And a senior academic who was part of this organization posted about me on the listserv, trying to petition to get me removed from the organization. And I'm essentially all I did was provide art supplies. And the immediate harsh policing and use of punishment, this really sort of fascistic, punitively oriented response to any dissent is horrifying, especially because of the ethos of Judaism as a religion or a group that questions and that interrogates. It's this contravening of everything we've learned about our people. We are supposed to do the research. We are supposed to be the dissenting voices. That's part of our cultural role, and that's part of what we've been taught in this community. And so to have that so viciously policed and accompanied with, you'll lose your spot in your doctoral program, you're not welcome in this professional organization anymore. The comparison of my behavior, it's been that I'm being violent. And so people said, she doesn't deserve to be a violence prevention scholar. She doesn't deserve to be a therapist. She doesn't deserve to be part of this professional organization that treats trauma. And the conflation of violence as someone providing art supplies being violent or someone speaking in support of Palestine being violent, when we're seeing Palestinians be mass murdered and exterminated and forced out of their historic homeland at gunpoint, like that is violence.
That's not true. They're just not getting out of the way of Hamas. That's it.
Oh my gosh. It's just the most absurd conflation. And it's like, okay, if you're really trying to say that what I am doing is violent while we are watching the attempt of a mass extinction, the cognitive dissonance must be so loud. It's horrifying.
Yeah.
But I would say that the Zionist impact on academia is
it's horrible. I feel like this is like another fight that has to be fought. Like, and I am not currently in academia. They wouldn't have me. I mean, look, I'd love to be teaching law. I would, but I realized a long time ago I would never get to that point because, you know, if my fourth tier law school law professors went to first tier law schools and I go to a fourth tier law school, where the hell am I teaching? So I gave that dream up. But this is unacceptable, what's going on. But one of the things that really pissed me off so much was watching Claudine Gay not defend herself, and the one from Pennsylvania, and I don't remember the one from Penn, right? So when they're asked by this nasty shrew, when they're asked, does your school allow like genocidal threats against Jews? And it's like, why didn't one of them say, no, we wouldn't, but nobody said that? Why are they allowing what these student groups say, which is what we're all saying? No, it's the same thing. If you say from the river to the sea, and they also have issue with the word intifada. They have, because these are very ignorant people. But why, when somebody's given a platform, you're the president of fucking Harvard, and you're sitting there, this is an opportunity to school them. And instead, they just did it. And what did that get them?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess in her mind, she figured, well, I might end up having to resign, but at least this way I could keep my job. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think something too that's sort of underexplored or undervalued here is the non-academic threats, the threats to safety, the death threats that people are receiving. Like, I spoke on a panel of anti-Zionist Jews for a Hanukkah event that was like, all I want for Hanukkah is a free Palestine. And someone got a hold of my cell phone number and the other speakers' cell phone numbers from this event and messaged us saying there are threats being made against Katherine Bogen on the dark web, and I would take these threats seriously. And so you're concerned not only for your career, and I am a little worried that my grad program is going to be reactive. They've been really supportive so far, and I'm grateful for that. But there's a breaking point for every institution.
How much longer do you have?
Correct, and I'm concerned about that. But I'm also concerned that someone will seek me out. I'm also concerned about threats to my safety. And I know that Claudine Gay, while all this was going on, was getting really, really violent personal death threats. So at the same time, I would want someone in a position of that much power and influence to say, let's provide some corrective information here.
Yes.
From the river to the sea doesn't actually mean we want a genocide of the Jewish people. It's advocating for the right of return for this entire state space, like for the entire geography.
But the one thing you have to remember is that, and I've seen the evolution happening in real time, they're not saying from the river to the sea as often as they did at the beginning. Now they're just saying free Palestine, and even that is being called anti-Semitic. So it's like, you cannot allow them to define the narrative. The second you allow that is the second they perceive that they're eventually going to weather the storm on this issue. That's why people like Shmuley go around with their phone trying to, it's like the kid at Central Park who basically, we addressed this before, who probably recognized him, said, hey, free Palestine. Right. And that set him off to such a degree that he felt the need to turn on his phone and say, hey, this guy's threatening me, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, this kid's threatening you? You got, eventually enough people are going to see it and think, yeah, I'm not really buying that anymore. I kind of get the impression that what you guys are doing is really bad. It's so terrible that we have to look at it as, well, we just need more time. And all the while, the Palestinians are being genocided, the disease, the famine, everything. It's so unconscionable.
I actually don't think there's any way for them to come back from this, actually. Like they could cease fire now. And I still do not see how this is going to get rectified until we change the entire geopolitical setup there. Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.